Everyone has to die, folks, but a death like David Malhotra's, God, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Just imagine a pitch-black night, miles and miles of silent ocean stretching in every direction, and cutting through that dead silence, the sound of an old rope slowly dragging David not toward the water, but toward a death that would freeze his very soul. The strange thing was, there were 26 people on that ship, but nobody saw anything. Nobody heard anything. Was it some wandering spirit, or a ruthless killer hidden among the crew? Today, we're going to lift the veil on the unsolved mystery of the MV Sagar Rani, a tale that still keeps even the most seasoned sailors awake at night, a place where people still tremble at the thought of going. Ghostly Fables. In South Delhi's posh neighborhood, the Malhotra family name needed no introduction. Rajesh Malhotra's textile business had spread across the entire city. A Mercedes in the driveway, a magnificent mansion, and an only son, David Malhotra. A 25-year-old young man who had every comfort life could offer. But David's heart was set on something else entirely: the ocean. From childhood, David had this strange connection with water. When he was 7 years old, he went to a beach in Goa for the first time. That day, he told his mother Mira, "Mom, I think I want to stay here. These waves, they're calling to me." Mira had lovingly run her fingers through his hair and laughed. "Son, our home is in Delhi." But David's dream never changed. He excelled in school, in college, in everything. But when he filled out the application for the Merchant Navy, all hell broke loose at home. "Son, do you lack anything?" Tears welled up in Mira's eyes. "Your father has such a big business. You can stay here and manage everything. Why do you want to go to sea?" David took his mother's hand in his. "Mom, this is my dream. It's just a 3-month contract. I'll come back, I promise you." His father tried to reason with him, tried to stop him, but eventually gave in. Rajesh said, "Fine, but after 3 months, you're coming back. Then this game of dreams is over." On the morning of September 13th, 1993, in Mumbai's harbor, a massive cargo ship stood ready, the MV Sagar Rani. It was an old ship, but sturdy. It hauled cargo from India to Cape Town, South Africa. David put on his crisp white Merchant Navy uniform, looked at himself in the mirror, and smiled. Today, his dream was coming true. At the harbor, Mira and Rajesh had come to see him off. Mira's eyes were brimming with tears. "Son, take care of yourself. Call us every day whenever you dock at a port." "Mom, don't worry. I'll be absolutely fine. See you in 3 months, Ma." David hugged them and walked toward the ship. That was the last time Mira saw her son happy. The MV Sagar Rani had a crew of 26 people total. The ship's captain was Vikram Singh Rathore, an experienced man with a stern demeanor. He'd spent 30 years at sea. The rest of the crew included engineers, sailors, deckhands, all of them. Some old faces, some new. There were several young guys like David who were on a ship for the first time. David was assigned cabin number 7 on the lower deck near the engine room. It was a small room, an iron cot, a small table, and a narrow window that showed nothing but the black ocean. But David had no complaints. He was here to live his dream. On his first day, David explored the ship thoroughly. Standing on the deck, he looked out at the ocean, nothing but blue waves stretching to the horizon, meeting the sky. He took a deep breath and smiled. This is exactly what I wanted. That evening, David met some of the crew members. There was an elderly engineer named Rakesh Sharma. He looked at David and smiled. New guy, right? First time at sea? Yes, sir, David said. Rakesh put a hand on his shoulder. Don't be nervous. It feels a bit strange for everyone at first, but slowly everything becomes normal. Just remember one thing. The ocean hides a lot. Sometimes things rise to the surface. Understand? David didn't quite understand what Rakesh meant, but he nodded anyway. That night, David went to sleep in his cabin. He felt wonderful. The gentle rocking of the ship, the distant sound of the ocean, everything was peaceful. He fell into a deep sleep almost immediately. But at 2:47 a.m., something strange happened. David's sleep was broken. The sound was faint but clear, like someone scraping metal against metal. He sat up. The room was dark, with only the faint moonlight coming through the window. He took a deep breath. The sound was coming from the door. David checked his watch. 2:47 a.m. He figured it must be one of the crew members. He got up and moved towards the door. "Who's there?" David called out. No answer. He opened the door. Outside was a long, narrow corridor. Everything was visible in the yellow emergency lighting, but there was nobody there. "Hello?" David called out again. Complete silence in the corridor. He looked around. There were other cabins on both sides, all closed. He figured it must have been the pipes. It's an old ship. These things happen. He came back inside and shut the door. But sleep wouldn't come. He just lay there, staring at the ceiling. The next day, everything was normal. David did his duty, learned his work, talked with the others. Captain Vikram was strict but fair. He asked David, "How's it going?" "Very good, sir," David said. "Good. Work hard. Learn everything. The ocean is no joke. You have to stay alert every single moment here." In the afternoon, Rakesh called David to the deck. He pointed towards the ocean. "Look, as far as the eye can see, just water. No land, no shore. Here, you're alone. Just this ship and the ocean. Understand?" David nodded, but there was something in Rakesh's words that unsettled him. That night, it happened again. 2:47 a.m. This time, David was already awake. He'd thought maybe the sound would come again, and it did. But this time, it was louder, like someone was pounding on the door with all their strength, trying to break it down. David got up and went to the door. "Who's out there? What do you want?" The sound stopped. Complete silence. David gathered his courage and opened the door. Again, nobody was there. But this time, something was different. There were marks on the door, scratch marks, like someone had clawed at the door with their fingernails. David's heart started racing. These marks weren't there before. He'd looked that morning, nothing. So how were they here now? He came back inside, shut the door, and locked it. But the fear didn't leave. He stayed awake all night, staring at the door. In the morning, when he came out, he examined the door carefully. The marks were clearly visible. Deep, dark marks. It wasn't his imagination. They were real. That day, David caught Rakesh alone. "Sir, I need to tell you something." Rakesh looked at him. "What happened? You look troubled." "Sir, in my cabin, at night, strange sounds come, and there are marks on the door." Rakesh's face grew serious. "What kind of sounds?" David told him everything. Rakesh took a deep breath and looked around. Then, in a low voice, he said, "Come on, let's go somewhere else." They both went to the rear deck where nobody was around. Rakesh said, "David, I need to tell you something, but this stays between us. Don't tell anyone." "Yes, sir. This has happened on this ship before. In 1985, there was a sailor, Manoj Kumar. Good kid, hard worker, honest. He got the same cabin as you, number 7. David's heart sank. The first week was fine. Then he said sounds were coming at night. We thought maybe he was losing his mind. Then one night he screamed. When we got to his cabin, Rakesh stopped. David asked, "What happened to him in that cabin?" Rakesh continued. He was dead. His body, there were handprint marks on his throat, on his arms, on his back, like someone had squeezed him with tremendous force. But there was nobody else in the room. The door was locked from the inside. The window was shut. Then, who killed him? Rakesh shrugged. Nobody knows. The autopsy said suicide, but we all knew that was a lie. After that, cabin number 7 was taken out of use. But last year, the ship was renovated. Everything changed. Now, people are staying in that cabin again. So, is there a ghost there? David said, fear creeping into his voice. Rakesh looked into David's eyes. I don't know what's there, but I know this much. Whoever stays in that cabin, something happens to them. David, my advice, talk to the captain. Get your cabin changed. David thought about it, but then pride swelled in his chest. No, sir, I won't be scared. If something's there, I'll face it. Rakesh put his hand on David's shoulder. Bravery is a good thing, son, but not stupidity. Keep the door locked at night, and if anything strange happens, yell immediately. We'll come. David nodded, but now fear had taken root in his heart. From that night on, David increased his precautions. He put a heavy lock on the door, kept the window shut, kept a pipe near him. If something came, he would fight. But what was coming couldn't be fought. Third night, 2:47 a.m. David was awake. He'd thought he would wait for the sound, but this time something different happened. Suddenly, the lights went out. The entire cabin plunged into darkness. David turned on his flashlight and looked around. Nothing. Then his flashlight beam hit the corner of the cabin. In the corner, there was a shadow, a black, hazy figure. It was shaped like a person, but it had no face, just a faceless body. David's breath caught. Who are you?" he said, trembling. The shadow moved. Slowly, it came toward David. "Stay back," David raised the pipe, but the shadow didn't stop. It kept coming closer. Now David could see its form. No, there was no form, just darkness. But there were hands, long, thin, white hands. David backed up. His back hit the wall. There was nowhere left to go. The shadow was right in front of him. Then those hands rose, slowly, toward David's neck. "No!" David screamed and swung the pipe at the shadow. The pipe passed through air. The shadow vanished. David ran. He threw open the door and bolted outside. The corridor had lights. Some crew members came running. "What happened? Why are you screaming?" one asked. There was someone inside." David was gasping for breath. People went into his cabin. Rakesh had come too. They searched the entire room. Nothing. Just an empty room. "David, are you okay?" Rakesh asked. David touched his neck. There were marks. Fingerprint marks. Fresh, blue bruises. Everyone saw them. Nobody said anything. Captain Vikram had arrived too. "David," the captain said, "at the next port you're getting off. This isn't right for you." But the next port was still 3 days away, and David didn't know if he would survive those 3 days. Rakesh tried to get David to sleep in his cabin, but David refused. "No, sir. I'll stay in my cabin. I won't be scared." Rakesh said, "David, don't be stubborn." But David insisted, "Sir, please, I'll be fine." Finally, everyone agreed. But Rakesh said, "I'll stay outside in the corridor. If anything happens, yell immediately." David went into his cabin. He shut the door but didn't lock it, so Rakesh could get in quickly. He pulled out a diary from his desk and started writing. "Today is October 3rd. Maybe this is my last night. If something happens, Mom and Dad, please forgive me. I just wanted to live my dream. But maybe some dreams aren't meant to come true. I love you both so much." Tears filled David's eyes. He was crying, thinking about his parents. He closed the diary and lay down on the bed. He checked the time, 2:30 a.m. 17 minutes left. The clock struck 2:47 a.m. But David noticed, this time, nothing happened. David breathed a sigh of relief. Maybe it won't come tonight. Then there was a sound at the window. Thump. David turned to look. On the window glass was a hand, white, wet hand, from outside. But outside is the ocean. How could... Then a face appeared. Blurred, rotted face. The eyes were empty white sockets. The mouth was open, and it was smiling. David's scream stuck in his throat. He got off the bed and backed away. Then the lights went out. The entire room plunged into darkness, and then David felt it. Someone was behind him, right next to his neck. Then came a whisper. "David, it's your turn now." David tried to turn around, but 2 hands came around his throat. Cold, wet hands. The nails were long, and the grip was so strong that David couldn't move. Let go of me!" David tried to scream, but the grip got tighter. His breath was choking. Darkness closed in around his vision. "Rakesh, sir," David said in a barely audible voice, but no sound came out. And then everything ended. The next morning, October 4th, Rakesh knocked on David's door. "David, wake up, son." No answer from David's cabin. Rakesh knocked again. Still nothing. He opened the door. The room was empty. Nobody was there. The bed was made. The diary was on the table, but David was nowhere. Rakesh immediately informed the captain.
They searched the entire ship, every room, every corner, the engine room, the cargo hold, everywhere. But there was no trace of David. The search continued for 3 days, but nothing was found. The ship reached Cape Town on October 7th. The police were notified.
And then, that same day, a deckhand saw something floating behind the ship in the ocean. "Sir, there's something out there!" Everyone ran. The captain looked through binoculars and his face went pale. "Get it out. Now." A net was thrown. Slowly, a body was pulled up. It was David. His face had turned blue. His eyes were open, and in them was a terror that words cannot describe. His mouth was slightly open, as if he were screaming, and on his throat were deep blue marks, fingerprint marks. An autopsy was performed. The report stated, death by drowning. But what wasn't written was this: there was no water in David's lungs, meaning when he fell into the ocean, he was already dead. Someone had killed him, then thrown him into the water. The police investigated. They interrogated the entire crew, checked the CCTV footage, but nothing, no clues. David had gone into his cabin and then vanished. How? Nobody knows. Finally, the case was closed. The report said, accident. But the people who were on that ship, they knew this was no accident. When the news reached Delhi, Mira's wailing brought the entire neighborhood together. Rajesh was completely broken. His only son, the light of his eyes, was gone forever. David's diary was given to them. Everything was written in it. The sounds, the shadow, the marks, everything. Mira would read that diary every day and cry, my baby must have been so scared." But the story doesn't end here. The MV Sagar Rani still sails the ocean today. Cabin number 7 has been taken out of use again, but sometimes when the night grows deep, crew members hear sounds. Rakesh still works on that ship, but he never walks down the corridor where cabin number 7 is. Captain Vikram has retired, but even today, when someone asks him about that night, he goes silent. Some people say Manoj's spirit still wanders that ship. Some say David has joined him now. 2 spirits, 2 deaths, 1 cursed cabin. What's the truth? Nobody knows. But if you ever get a chance to go on the MV Sagar Rani, remember, don't stay in cabin number 7. Don't stay awake at 2:47 a.m. And if you hear a sound at your door, don't open it. Because what's standing outside isn't human. And once it's seen you, there's no escape. The ocean hides a lot, and sometimes those things rise to the surface. But by then, it's too late. So folks, that was the tale of David and that cursed ship. If this story sent chills down your spine, make sure to like. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon for more untold and true stories like this. Now tell me in the comments, would you have the guts to spend one night in cabin number 7? Or have you had a terrifying experience like this? Share your story. The next video could be yours. Remember, not every sound you hear in the darkness of night is just the wind. Stay alert, because the next shadow could be right behind you.